Let us begin with a simple everyday scenario. You walk to your car in the morning, you turn the key, and nothing happens. The engine won't start. Your mind immediately begins to generate hypotheses to explain this phenomenon. Hypothesis A, the car's battery is dead. Hypothesis B, a sophisticated international spy ring, seeking to disrupt your commute, has secretly placed a custom-built electromagnetic pulse device under your car to disable its electronics as part of a complex global conspiracy. Which explanation is more likely to be true? The answer is obvious. You would check the battery first. But why is it so obvious? Why does our rational mind instinctively reject the second, more elaborate explanation? The intuitive mental tool we are using here has a name. It is a profound philosophical principle known as Occam's razor. The most famous formulation of this principle, from the 14th century Franciscan friar and philosopher William of Occam, is this: Entia non sunt multiplicanda praeter necessitatem. In English, entities must not be multiplied without necessity. Let's translate this into simpler, more practical terms. Occam's razor states that when you are faced with multiple competing hypotheses that all seem to explain a phenomenon, the simplest one, the one that requires the fewest new assumptions, entities, or miracles, is the one most likely to be correct. It is called a razor because it is a tool used to shave away the unnecessary. It cuts through convoluted logic, superfluous assumptions, and overly complex explanations, leaving behind the clean, simple core of the problem. It is a principle of intellectual parsimony and a cornerstone of the scientific method. It is critical to understand that Occam's razor is not a law of physics. It does not state that the universe is always simple. It is a heuristic, a rule of thumb for rational thinking. It does not guarantee that you will find the absolute truth. Rather, its primary power lies in its ability to help you eliminate nonsense. The world is full of complex phenomena, but it is also full of people offering needlessly complex explanations for them. A financial guru might use a dozen esoteric technical indicators and a complex narrative about global capital flows to explain a stock's movement. The simpler explanation might just be that the company's profits went up. A conspiracy theorist might construct an elaborate web of secret societies and hidden agendas to explain a political event. The simpler explanation might be basic human incompetence or incentives. Occam's razor provides us with a first line of defense against this barrage of complexity. It teaches us to always start with the simplest, most direct explanation. Before you search for a conspiracy, first look for a simple mistake. Before you diagnose a rare, exotic disease, first check for the common cold. This principle is a powerful antidote to our own tendency to overthink and to be seduced by complex, exciting narratives. It is the discipline of seeking the simplest possible path to an explanation. It is the starting point for clear, rational thought in a world that is drowning in noise. If Occam's razor is a useful tool for everyday problems, it was an indispensable weapon in one of the greatest intellectual battles in human history, the scientific revolution. It was this philosophical razor that helped slice through centuries of accumulated, unnecessary complexity, revealing a simpler, more elegant, and ultimately more truthful model of the cosmos. To see this in action, we must look to the great battle between two rival models of the solar system, the Ptolemaic system and the Copernican system. The old, complex model. For over 500 years, the Ptolemaic model, with the Earth at the center of the universe, dominated Western thought. This model was functional. It could predict the positions of the planets with a reasonable degree of accuracy, but to do so, it had to become monstrously complex. To explain the strange retrograde motion of planets like Mars, where they appear to temporarily move backward in the sky, the Ptolemaic system required an elaborate and convoluted system of epicycles, small circles whose centers moved upon larger circles. It was a baroque, patched together, and intellectually unsatisfying explanation. The new, simple model. Then came the 16th century astronomer, Nicolaus Copernicus. He proposed a radical and far simpler idea. What if the sun, not the earth, was at the center of the solar system? By making this single bold change, the need for the vast majority of the complex epicycles simply vanished. The strange backward motion of the planets was now explained elegantly as a simple illusion, a consequence of our own faster-moving Earth overtaking a slower-moving outer planet in its orbit. Now, let's apply Occam's razor. At the time, both models could more or less predict the positions of the planets. They both fit the facts. But the Copernican model was dramatically simpler. It required far fewer entities, far fewer assumptions, and far fewer ad hoc patches. It shaved away the unnecessary complexity of the epicycles. While the transition took over a century of scientific battle, the intellectual elegance and parsimony of the Copernican system was one of the key reasons for its eventual triumph. This principle continues to be a guiding light in modern science. Albert Einstein was a master of wielding Occam's razor. His theory of special relativity, for example, was a profound simplification. Before Einstein, physicists had invented a complex, invisible, and undetectable entity called the luminiferous ether to explain how light could travel through the vacuum of space. Einstein's theory eliminated the need for this superfluous entity entirely. He proposed two simple, elegant postulates from which all the strange and wonderful consequences of relativity-like time dilation and E Mach quadratically flowed. It was Einstein who perfectly captured the spirit of this principle when he famously said, or is famously paraphrased as saying, "Everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler." The entire history of science can be seen as a continuous application of Occam's razor. It is a relentless process of seeking simpler, more elegant, and more powerful explanations for the workings of the universe. The razor is the tool that scientists use to cut away old, convoluted, and unnecessarily complex theories to make way for new, simpler, and more beautiful truths. We have seen the power of Occam's razor in the elegant, orderly world of science. But can this same tool be effective in the chaotic, emotional, and far messier world of human business and finance? Charlie Munger's answer would be a resounding yes. In fact, it may be even more essential here. The world of Wall Street and high finance has a powerful built-in incentive to create complexity. They invent complex financial products, like the collateralized debt obligations, CDOs, that were at the heart of the 2008 crisis, which few people could understand. They use impenetrable jargon and acronyms. They build convoluted narratives to explain market movements. Why? Because complexity creates the illusion of expertise. It justifies high fees. It can obscure underlying risks. It makes the client feel that they need the expert to navigate the labyrinth they themselves have created. Occam's razor is the perfect antidote to this deliberate obfuscation. It is the Munger-esque discipline of demanding simple, powerful, and understandable explanations. This is most evident in the way Munger and Buffett approach business analysis. They have famously said that they look for simple, understandable businesses, what Buffett calls businesses a ham sandwich could run. Their litmus test is simple. If you need a 150-page prospectus and a PhD in quantitative finance to understand how a company makes money, it is probably not a good investment. It belongs in the too hard pile. Compare a business like See's Candies. They make delicious, high-quality chocolate that people love to give as gifts, with a complex, highly leveraged investment bank from the mid-2000s. The simple, understandable business model proved to be far more durable, predictable, and ultimately more profitable for Berkshire Hathaway. The razor is also a powerful tool for cutting through market narratives. Imagine a popular tech stock is soaring. The complex explanation. A TV pundit might say, the stock is rising due to a complex interplay of shifting global macroeconomic trends, sector-specific institutional fund flows, and a new paradigm-shifting technology that is difficult for the layman to understand. This is the chauffeur's explanation. The simple explanation. The company's profits are growing rapidly and people are excited about it. A Munger-esque thinker always starts with the simplest explanation. Is the business earning more money? Is it selling more products? They only add layers of complexity if, and only if, the simple explanation is proven to be insufficient to explain the facts. Finally, the razor is our best defense against market conspiracy theories. The market drops suddenly. The complex, conspiratorial explanation. A secret cabal of powerful bankers is manipulating the market to crush the small investor. This requires us to invent new entities, a secret cabal, and new motives, a coordinated plot without necessity. The simple explanation. The Federal Reserve raised interest rates to fight inflation. Higher interest rates make future profits less valuable and borrowing more expensive, so stock prices went down. The simpler explanation, based on public information and fundamental economic principles, is almost always the correct one. For an investor, Occam's razor acts as a powerful crap detector. It is the discipline of asking, what is the absolute simplest explanation for this? It protects you from the manufactured complexity of Wall Street, the allure of exciting but flimsy narratives, and the paranoia of conspiracy theories. It is a commitment to the simple, underlying, and often boring reality of how a business actually works. We have seen how Occam's razor can help us understand the cosmos in the stock market, but its greatest daily utility may be found in its power to cut through the noise and complexity of our own lives. In a world that constantly tries to sell us complex solutions for simple problems, the razor is our first line of defense. Let's first apply it to personal health and wellness. The modern wellness industry is a perfect example of unnecessary complexity. We are bombarded with elaborate diet theories, intricate supplement regimens, and esoteric workout plans. The scenario. You've been feeling tired and sluggish for a few weeks. The complex explanation. Your mind, influenced by online experts, might jump to complex conclusions. I must have a rare micronutrient deficiency, or perhaps it's adrenal fatigue, requiring a complex protocol of 15 different supplements, or I need to try this new highly restrictive diet. Applying Occam's razor. Before exploring these complex and low probability hypotheses, what is the simplest explanation for fatigue? The razor forces you to test the most common and fundamental variables first. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you drinking enough water? Are you eating whole foods? Are you moving your body regularly? The Munger-esque lesson is to always test the simple, high-probability solutions first. Do not search for a complex cure for a problem that can likely be solved by simply getting an extra hour of sleep. Next, consider personal productivity. The world is full of complex productivity systems, apps, and methodologies, all promising to help us achieve more. The scenario. You feel distracted and can't seem to focus on your most important work. The complex explanation. I need a better system. I need to implement a combination of getting things done, Zettelkasten, and the Pomodoro technique, all managed through 5 different integrated apps. This is a common trap of procrastinating planning, spending more time optimizing your productivity system than actually doing the work. Applying Occam's razor. What is the simplest explanation for a lack of focus? Distractions. What is the simplest solution? Eliminate the distractions. Turn off your phone notifications. Close the unnecessary browser tabs. Create a quiet space. The razor cuts through the productivity industry noise and points to the simple, fundamental solution. Finally, let's apply it to interpersonal problem solving. We often fall into the trap of overthinking the motives of others, creating complex, paranoid narratives in our own minds. The scenario. A colleague sends you a blunt one-sentence email. The complex explanation. They must be angry with me. This is a passive-aggressive move related to that comment I made in the meeting last week. This is part of a larger political game they are playing to undermine me. This explanation multiplies entities without necessity. It assumes hidden motives, complex plots, and negative intent. Applying Occam's razor. What is the simplest plausible explanation? They were busy. They were typing on their phone. Or perhaps that's just their normal communication style. This application of the razor is closely related to another useful heuristic, Hanlon's razor. Never attribute to malice that which is adequately explained by carelessness or stupidity. Always start with the simplest, least conspiratorial explanation for others' behavior. In all these areas, Occam's razor serves as a powerful tool for clarity. It is a mental habit that constantly prompts us to ask, what is the simplest, most direct path here? It is our defense against a world that profits from making things more complex than they need to be. We have now journeyed through the vast applications of Occam's razor. We've seen how it cleared the path for the scientific revolution, how it cuts through the noise of Wall Street, and how it can simplify our own daily lives. It is, without a doubt, one of the most powerful tools in our mental toolkit. But a wise thinker does not just know how to use their tools, they also know the limits of their tools. The most common misunderstanding of Occam's razor is to interpret it as, the simplest theory is always the true one. This is a dangerous oversimplification. Reality, especially in complex systems, is often genuinely, necessarily complex. The razor is not a universal law of nature. It is a heuristic, a rule of thumb for navigating uncertainty. This brings us back to the full wisdom of Einstein's famous maxim. Everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. That second clause is the crucial counterbalance. The purpose of Occam's razor is to eliminate unnecessary complexity, not to deny necessary complexity. So, when should we be cautious about applying the razor? We must be most careful when dealing with complex adaptive systems, such as a biological ecosystem, the human brain, or a national economy. In these systems, events are rarely the result of a single simple cause. They are often the result of multiple interacting variables and feedback loops. To apply a simplistic explanation to a complex system is not an act of intellectual elegance, it is an act of intellectual arrogance. Consider the Lollapalooza effect, which we have discussed before. The very concept of a Lollapalooza multiple forces converging to create a super-additive nonlinear outcome is a direct violation of a simplistic application of Occam's razor. The first-level simple explanation for the 2008 financial crisis might just be greed. But the real explanation, the worldly-wise one, is a complex interplay of perverse incentives, psychological biases like social proof, flawed risk models, and regulatory failures. In this case, the more complex explanation is the one that is actually closer to the truth. This reveals the ultimate skill of the master thinker. It is not about blindly choosing the simplest explanation in all cases. It is about developing the judgment to know when a problem is simple and when it is truly complex. The wise thinker uses Occam's razor as a starting point, a default setting. They always begin by testing the simplest, most direct, and most plausible hypothesis first. But they have the intellectual humility and the broad latticework of mental models to recognize when that simple hypothesis is insufficient to explain the facts. They are not afraid to add layers of necessary complexity when the evidence demands it. Occam's razor, therefore, is not a substitute for deep work, rigorous thought, and multidisciplinary learning. It is your first, best filter. It is the gatekeeper of your mind, preventing a flood of unnecessary complexity, conspiracy theories, and convoluted narratives from wasting your time and cognitive energy. It is the tool that clears the clutter from your workbench, so you can then focus your full attention on the genuinely complex and important machine that remains. This balanced, nuanced approach to thinking, knowing which tool to use and when, is the very essence of worldly wisdom. And helping you build this complete mental toolkit is the core mission of our work here at Think Like Munger. We are dedicated to deconstructing the powerful mental models that allow for superior decision-making, helping you build your own latticework of knowledge. If this deep dive into the power and limits of Occam's razor has provided you with value, please show your support by liking this video. To continue this journey with us, be sure to subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell. You'll be joining a community of rational thinkers committed to a life of continuous learning. As always, Check the description for a link to our free Top 5 Mental Models checklist. Now, we invite you to reflect. In the comments below, share an example where you found the simplest explanation was actually wrong, and a more complex one was needed to understand the situation. Thank you for thinking with us.